From fashion to music, food to hairstyles, our world has become a melting pot of ideas, practices, and traditions. But as cultures mingle, they also face scrutiny under the lens of what some call cultural appropriation. At its heart, cultural appropriation refers to the adoption of elements of one culture by members of another, often in a way that's viewed as exploitative or disrespectful. And while many argue that it's essential to protect the authenticity of cultures, this narrative isn't as straightforward as it seems. Let's take a closer look. Cultural appropriation is a term with broad definitions. It can mean borrowing, adopting, or even appreciating a practice from a culture that's not your own. So, why has it become such a heated issue? Critics say it's about power dynamics, that when people from dominant groups take elements of marginalized cultures, it's theft, not appreciation. But while this concern is valid, it often turns into an oversimplified debate, failing to account for a deeper truth: our cultures, as a whole, have always been in conversation with each other. People adopt, adapt, and transform ideas, art, and practices, and that's how societies grow. Historically, cultural exchange is how civilization has evolved. From the ancient Silk Road connecting East and West, to African and European music merging to create jazz, cultures don't exist in silos. They interact and innovate through mutual exchange. But here's where it gets complicated. When we dig deeper, we see a glaring hypocrisy in the cultural appropriation narrative. If it's wrong for someone outside a culture to adopt elements of it, then where do we draw the line? Let's take a closer look at some examples. Consider the example of music and fashion. Western pop stars often blend elements of other cultures into their music or style. For example, artists borrow African drums, Indian sitars, or Japanese visual aesthetics. They're often accused of cultural appropriation. But when the influence goes the other way, say, when K-pop idols adopt hip-hop styles or Indian designers use Western silhouettes, it's celebrated as diversity. Why are we so quick to cry theft in one direction but not the other? This double standard becomes clear when we realize that cultures often appropriate from each other. Cultural exchange should be a two-way street, but when only some groups are accused of appropriation, it reinforces divisions rather than promoting understanding. A key part of the hypocrisy lies in the question: who gets to decide what belongs to whom? Culture is not private property. It's a set of ideas, practices, and beliefs that grow and evolve over time. When we say, only people from this culture can wear this, we're implying that culture is something static and unchanging, but it's not. Take food, for example. Italian food is beloved worldwide, and pizza, once considered a purely Italian dish, has taken on new forms in America, Japan, and India. Should only Italians make pizza? Or only Mexicans make tacos? These foods evolved by incorporating new ingredients and techniques. What we enjoy today as authentic Italian or Mexican cuisine is actually the result of centuries of cultural fusion. Food brings people together. When people experiment with flavors from other cultures, it's often a way of showing respect and interest in those traditions. Fusion cuisine is a way of celebrating, not disrespecting. Gatekeeping culture becomes problematic when it restricts people from experiencing and learning about others. Cultural appropriation can create a narrative of exclusion, where people feel they're not allowed to engage with certain things just because they don't belong to that culture. This idea actually limits our ability to connect with one another. Learning about and engaging with cultures beyond our own is one of the most meaningful ways to connect with the world. It's a form of respect, not disrespect. Thanks for watching. Remember, cultural exchange can be a beautiful thing. Let's approach it with open minds, open hearts, and a spirit of mutual respect.